Hello everyone and welcome back to F1 24 for another round of the 2023 Formula 2 season, round number 3 down in Melbourne. We've had a pretty good season so far, so let's hope we can continue that here. Typically I would call this a home race for myself, but we're driving as Ralph Boschum this year, so home race. Well, actually we won't really be getting one. Ralph Boschum is from Switzerland. But anyway, we come to the line to complete our first flying lap in quali, and it really isn't a good one. The setup that I've been working on throughout this season just didn't really work that well in Melbourne. A bit of a different style circuit well, I guess we've already been to a few very different circuits, starting off with Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, now down in Melbourne. So yeah, the setup that worked very well in the first two rounds just didn't really work on this circuit. And Melbourne, despite being my home race, it's never been a track I click with most of the time. There have been a few good races here and there, but typically it is one of those circuits I do struggle with a little bit. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. This right-hander in particular, I went a bit deep on that occasion, but I've been having trouble with the car just over-rotating a bit, and you can end up in a very clumsy spin there. So yeah, that corner and this left-hander here, the penultimate corner of the circuit, I was struggling at those two more than any other in practice. But anyway, we've improved massively on our first flyer, and we're actually going to get the full variety pack of sectors, a purple, a green and a red on that lap. And that at least gets us off the back row and currently up into P19 as we head back to the garage. So that's where we sit at the moment. I don't know if there's enough goodness left in the tyres to go for another lap, and as we do go for that next lap, it was nowhere. So unfortunately, despite finding a massive chunk of time over our first flyer, we're going to be on the 10th row of the grid at best, and confirmed there, P19. That is not the qualifying I wanted here.
With qualifying complete, all that remains is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the feature race tomorrow, so make sure you join us then.
Well, it's not just myself having a terrible qualifying. Second in the championship, Oliver Behrman has qualified even worse, down in P21, so who's going to be there to capitalise on this one? We've got Ayumu Iwasa third in the standings ahead of Vesti, Porcher and Daruvula are next in the queue. So we'll check out where all of those drivers have qualified. Ayumu Iwasa on pole position, so that's great for Iwasa. Frederick Vesti P5, Daruvula P6 and Teo Porcher P8. So they've all got the opportunity to capitalise on this weekend, so it'll be interesting to see who is able to do it. Teo Porcher probably more so in the sprint race, where Arthur Leclerc takes reverse grid pole. Let's get into it.
So today, the sprint race, no pit stops, just full on pace. It's all about speed, daring and sheer driving skill. What, I wonder, is in store for us today? It's a new addition to the Formula 2 calendar. Albert Park has been an iconic F1 circuit for years. Recently remodeled to encourage tighter racing on track, it is 3.28 miles, 14 turns instead of the original 16. Welcome to the Formula 2 commentary box. I'm Alex Jakes. Alex Brundle joins us as ever for this. Alex, it's a sprint race. How's the format change going to affect the mentality of the drivers?
We have seen stops before at the end of the sprint race, jumping onto that softer compound of tyre and having at it for the final few laps of the race. Indeed, we've seen sprint races won like that. So anything could happen out there. Don't send the pit crew home just yet.
We're at the back, but give it 100% and we can still come away with a decent result. I believe in you. Come on.
Thank you, Mark. Very inspiring. Anyway, all sunny conditions. I did look into the pit stop strategy. It will definitely be slower, but the interesting aspect of that is what happens if there's a safety car. So I did a bit of rough calculations to see you know, if there's a safety car, how far into the race we'd need to be for a pit stop to be worthwhile, etc. But for the most part, we're not going to worry about that. It's going to be a flat-out race to the end, and yeah, we'll see how it all pans out as we now go to the 5 red lights. And it's lights out, and away we go for the sprint race here in Melbourne. And it's an okay start for us, good traction off the line, and we've got some nice clean air opening up for us on the outside, so we're going to take full advantage of that down the outside. And we've made a host of positions into turns 1 and 2, a little bit of contact there with the back of our teammate, a collision warning as well for that one, so yeah, not great there, but I think we both will get away with no damage as we run into turn 3 in 13th position. 6 places gained already in this race as Kushmini jukes it out side by side with Roman Stanek. The Czech driver slots in behind, and we're just forced to do the same as we didn't have anywhere to go, despite having a little bit of speed to work with for a moment there. But yeah, that's a great start for us, some efficient overtaking into turn 1 with relatively low risk, and that's massively eased the burden at the start of this race. Meanwhile, up the front of the grid, it was Arthur Leclerc and Brad Benavides on the front row, and looks like Leclerc was able to get the jump. Benavides, though, remember, lost out late on in the race in Saudi Arabia and couldn't bring home the victory, so the PHM driver will be absolutely determined to make sure that doesn't happen here. But it's Arthur Leclerc who leads the way at the moment ahead of Brad Benavides, and Leclerc pulling a very slight margin in the early phase of this race. As we carry on, we'll make the move down the inside of Roman Stanek, and we'll get that.
Good work, great pass.
Get that one done cleanly and move ourselves ahead of the Trident driver up into P12 now. So nice clean move there. Next up is our teammate Kushmini, and we'll go for the outside this time into this right-hander, which despite struggling there in practice is becoming a very good overtaking opportunity. I feel very strong through the chicane, and that's giving us some good opportunities to make moves there as Ollie Behrman pulls off the road with a mechanical failure. So the weekend just goes from bad to worse for the title contender, albeit we're only in the third round of the championship. And that's another mechanical failure right in front of us this time, and that one I think is Clement Novalak in the other Trident. So disaster for Clement Novalak, who's actually been pretty quick so far this season, but the Frenchman will take no further part in this one as the field scrambles around the stricken Trident car. And yeah, Clement Novalak tumbles down the order, but it's worse than that because he's going to be out of the race with that issue. So it actually took Novalak a long time to find a place to park. There's nowhere to pull off the road. I guess he could have stopped at pit exit, but Novalak just rolled all the way through to the exit of turn 2, finally finding a gate to park up against there, and the marshals can attend to the car there. But anyway, further up the road, this battle between Leclerc and Benavides is far from over, and in fact Leclerc's got a bit of a train forming behind, still leading the way at the moment, but Benavides definitely has some pace in hand, but not able to do anything with it at this moment in time, as we are right tucked in behind Ayumu Iwasa here. We're going to go for the move around the outside, a bit on the grass on entry there, and that just disturbs us in the braking zone. We couldn't quite get it stopped the way I wanted to there, so we're going to have to go once again on Ayumu Iwasa down the inside. Big lockup for one of the cars up the road, but we make the move stick on Ayumu Iwasa, and yeah, that was a nice clean move there. Here's the onboard with Roman Stanek. What's happening here? Stanek pulls off. Is this a mechanical failure for Stanek? DRS open. Oh! Into the back of Roman Stanek goes one of the Red Bull cars, and that was a very clumsy incident. Still don't know what's going on with Roman Stanek here as he continues to roll along and not pulling off the road. So it's clearly some kind of issue with the car for Roman Stanek, but not pulling off the road, not retiring the car. So I think Stanek's going to try to get this thing back into pit lane. I think the whole field has finally cleared through, but Stanek pulls it into the pits, and this will be very much an unscheduled stop for the Trident team. Not sure what the issue is, but that's a disaster for Roman Stanek, who was getting a little bit closer to the points with those couple of issues for those up the road. But yeah, new set of tyres going for Roman Stanek, and the Czech driver will carry on, and presumably it's just a Control-Alt-Delete in the pit lane, and whatever issue Stanek was struggling with has now been resolved. He's back up to racing speed, but here's the onboard with Zane Maloney, who was the one who ploughed into the back of Roman Stanek. Just really clumsy there. The couple of cars in front slowed down slightly. Maloney tried to get around him, and I guess just wasn't paying attention, didn't see that Stanek was right there as we see this battle playing out. That's Kushmaini and Ayumu Iwasa going at it, and down the main straight. They might even be thinking about 3 wide here, but in the end they all slot back into the positions they started with, so no change of position there. Meanwhile, we are putting the pressure on Victor Martins, and actually a bit off the road there as we're trying to get our car to the inside, when in the end we're going to have to go to the outside of Victor Martins. We'll get the move done on the exit of our favourite right-hander, which we're making plenty of overtakes through there. It's becoming a bit of a hot spot for us as we're right tucked in behind Dennis Hauger now, so we've got plenty of pace in this final sector, and plenty of pace in these tyres as well. They're holding on very well through this race so far.
That was the fastest lap of the race so far.
As we are past the halfway point now, down the inside of Hauger into turn 1, and we'll get the move done there. So yeah, we can pass wherever we like, it seems, at the moment. But as we carry on, we'll see if that continues. Big lunge down the inside of Frederick Vesti, and we'll get it turned nicely there. And that's another move.
Good job, nice overtake.
As we've now got Daruvula up the road, so we're ticking off our championship rivals in this race. We've overtaken Iwasa, we've overtaken Frederick Vesti, and now we've got Jane Daruvula up the road. Of course, we're already ahead of Behrman, who's now out of the race with that mechanical failure. But there's the move down the inside of Daruvula, a little bit borderline that one, as we're going to still have to fight this one on the exit, but we will get the move done on Jane Daruvula. Move ourselves up another position in this race, and ahead of another one of our championship rivals. The only one left in front of us really is Teo Porcher of those main contenders I outlined earlier in the weekend. So, radio.
No tyre concerns at the moment, just focus on the driving.
And yeah, just confirmation there as we go on board with Brad Benavides that we didn't have any damage after that bit of contact with Daruvula, but Benavides is very close behind Arthur Leclerc, and has on a couple of occasions had to brake before the actual braking zone into that chicane to not run into the back of Leclerc, but not able to get the car into a position to actually make an overtake there. But these two are pushing hard out front, but they cannot break away from the field. I mean, there's a queue of cars forming behind as well, with Teo Porcher there in third position, not too far back, as we're on the back of Jack Doohan as well in this queue, and it still continues behind us. So this is a really feisty battle pack here, and we're going to make the move down the inside of Jack Doohan, and it's we have to send it in pretty deep, but
Great manoeuvre, you made it look so easy.
we managed to make it work and move ourselves up another position in this race. We're running out of laps though, but this has been a crazy recovery drive. A lot of the work was done at turn 1, but as we make the move down the inside of Teo Porcher, that completes our drive onto the podium in this race. We've still got Benavides and Leclerc in front of us, so we'll see if we can get them. But I'm not going to be doing anything too risky. We're ahead of all of our championship rivals. That's what's most important, as Benavides is not giving up. He's throwing everything at it to try and get past Teo Porcher, but the laps are counting down. There's only a couple of laps left in this race as Leclerc's having to defend. We're looking around for the move on Benavides, but we're reaching the point where our tyres have seen their best, and we're actually under pressure briefly there from Teo Porcher, who had a little look down the inside. And look at the massive queue behind Arthur Leclerc. This is ridiculous how many cars Leclerc is holding off here. So clearly Leclerc doesn't quite have the ultimate pace, but is driving well enough to maintain that position ahead of Brad Benavides. So as we continue on, yet again we're on lap 22 of 23, the penultimate lap of the race, and we've got a good run on Benavides here as we head up into the final sector. Can we make the move to the inside? We think about it, but we think better of it. We can't really just go for a diving move down the inside, because there's a high chance we'll clean up Arthur Leclerc on the way through, and after such a strong recovery drive, that's the last thing I want to do. So I'd rather just settle for third. We're ahead of all of our championship rivals. There's no sense in throwing it away with just a lap to go. So here we go then. We start the final lap of the race, and it's down to these two, Arthur Leclerc versus Brad Benavides. And right now the Dams driver has the upper hand, as he has done so for the majority of this race. There's been a few instances where Benavides has been able to pull alongside, but has never been able to make that move. Benavides, after losing that victory earlier in the season on the final lap, is there a chance to get it back here in Melbourne? Let's see as we head through the middle sector on board with Benavides. Is there a run here towards the chicane? I think Arthur Leclerc has pulled out just the slightest of margins compared to what he's had throughout this race so far, and that might just be enough to hold off Benavides as they head up towards the chicane for the final time. Is there anything Benavides can do here? Not into the chicane, but potentially the run out of the chicane towards the final sector. It could be the place for Brad Benavides to make the move. He's close to Arthur Leclerc, but not close enough. We have a look to the inside for a long way back, but there's never going to be a move to be made there for us. And despite having a good run through that corner, I don't think we're going to be close enough to do anything. Arthur Leclerc is going to hold on to this one as we have a last minute look again to the inside. We're just about pushing Benavides through the penultimate corner, but there's nothing we can do as we try and line up a good exit to get the run onto the straight. It's not going to be enough for us. But out in front, Arthur Leclerc takes the Dams team to the top step of the podium here in Melbourne. And look at the gargantuan queue of cars behind. I think that was all the way down to 16th place. What a mega scrap in that race, all the way through.
End of the race. We'll see you in Parc Fermé.
It's P3 for us. We're a little conservative towards the end, but that was a nice recovery drive and some solid points here from a lowly starting position. And a lot of that work was done on lap 1.
This has been a stunning drive. Arthur Leclerc takes the checkered flag.
Well, the sprint win's not where the big points are handed out, but it sets them up well for tomorrow and gives a lot of confidence for the longer feature.
And I can see our drivers making their way out now. It's been a sublime team performance, and it's the culmination of a lot of hard work. Dams are your winners today.
Well, after 23 defensive laps, it's Arthur Leclerc on the top step of the podium. Brad Benavides takes home a bit more silverware from this season, and we'll take third after a pretty solid recovery drive.
And after all that excitement, I think it's time for a lie down. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you when Formula 2 returns.
Alrighty then, before we even get into the rundown of results, I'd just like to mention that for some reason Juan Manuel Correa was put down as a DNF in the final results, despite crossing the line in 12th position in between Kushmaini and Amari Cordial. So not sure what the deal is there. I looked at the replay, and yeah, Correa definitely was between those two cars across the line. So yeah, I don't know how that happened, but regardless, yeah, that is why there's a larger gap between those two compared to everyone else in the top 15, top 16 if you reinsert Correa into the list. 16 cars covered by less than 6.5 seconds. You'd struggle to do that under safety car. I've never seen such a tightly packed bunch of cars that stretches for so long at the end of a race with no safety car. That was ridiculous. But anyway, let's have a little run through the finishing results. It was Arthur Leclerc ahead of Brad Benavides, myself, Teo Porcher. Jack Doohan gets a top 5 at his home race. Then it's Jane Arugula, Frederick Vesti, and Dennis Hauger taking the final points. In terms of the Drivers' Championship, then after that round, we continue to lead the way. Second place now belongs to Arthur Leclerc, who's trying to get back into the fight, up to 28 points for Leclerc, though we have extended our margin overall after that one. 34 points back to Leclerc. Behrman drops into third with the DNF in that race. In terms of the team's standings then, we're going to still be at the top of the table there as well. Dams are into second, 22 points behind us, so the team's championship actually a little bit closer with the Dams team doing well enough so far this season. Arthur Leclerc alongside Ayumu Iwasa, so they'll be looking to score big in the feature race, of course, with Iwasa starting on pole position. So yeah, that could be a good opportunity for both Iwasa in the Drivers' Championship and for both drivers, I suppose, in the Drivers' Championship. They both have a good chance of points. And then in terms of the Team's Championship as well, with myself and Kushmaini both starting outside of the top 10, it could be a tough day in the Team's Championship in the feature race. But we had good pace in this one. We did a lot of the work on the first lap, which definitely helped us out. But the underlying pace is there, more so than what we had in qualifying. So if we can get it together, we should be in for a good feature race as well. So yeah, without further ado, let's just get into it.
Delighted to welcome you to Albert Park, the newest edition on the official FIA Formula 2 calendar. The heat is going to be a test for drivers and cars today, ahead of the feature race. It's a new addition to the Formula 2 calendar. Albert Park has been an iconic F1 circuit for years. Recently remodeled to encourage tighter racing on track, it is 3.28 miles, 14 turns instead of the original 16. And here are the driver grid positions for today's race. A fantastic effort from Ayumu Iwasa yesterday puts him on pole position, with Victor Martins alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Novalak, Hauger, Frederick Vesti, and Arugula, Doohan, Porcher, Benavides, Arthur Leclerc, Stanek, Correa, Kushmaini, Enzo Fittipaldi, Cordial, Maloney, Vachon, Isaac Hadjar, Boschon, Crawford, Behrman, and Roy Nissany completes the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
I know you gutted to be starting from here, but just focus on putting that and some other cars behind you. Good luck.
Thank you, Mark. Right, so in terms of strategy, looks like just about everyone except for I think Roman Stanek starting on the soft compound tyres. Stanek on the mediums. His strategy's out the window for the weekend anyway after having to make that pit stop in the sprint race. But for us, we're going to start on the mediums, go a couple of laps longer. We still kind of split the race almost 50-50 between the two tyre compounds anyway. But yeah, it'll give us some grippy soft tyres at the end, and hopefully we can make an impact when it counts late on in the race. 5 red lights are out, and we are underway for the feature race here in Melbourne. And once again, it's an alright launch for us. Nothing special as we make our way towards turn 1. And again, we're going to try and use this space we found on the outside, but we don't have quite the room we were hoping for there. And we bail out of it in the end, and we actually drop a spot into P20 ultimately there. So as we need to now try and cover this one off on the inside, make sure we don't lose any more places. Yeah, we're down 1 from where we were on the grid but no harm done. We've still got the car all in one piece, and that's the most important thing, as we're tucked in behind Isaac Hadjar. So we'll see what we can do throughout the rest of this first lap. I actually did put a big effort in on the formation lap to make sure these medium tyres were up to temperature as much as possible. No matter what you do, you can never quite get them up to the ideal temperatures. Even in the race itself, they run on the colder side. So yeah, it's always very tough in these Formula 2 cars to get these tyres going. But that's why I wanted to get the medium tyres on early, use that formation lap to get the heat in, and then when we put the soft tyres on midway through the race, they should be nice and racy, right from the get-go anyway. But we're putting the pressure on Isaac Hadjar. We make the move to the outside as we head through the right-hander. Unfortunately, couldn't quite get the move done there, but we're all over the back of the Frenchman as we head through the final sector. So I think it's only a matter of time before we make this move. But yeah, struggling a little bit through the left-hander there, missing the apex quite a bit. So yeah, we get through the opening lap cleanly. We're still trying to get some heat into these tyres. Bit of a weave on the main straight there to try and get even more temperature into these mediums, because they're just not quite gripping the way I was hoping for. But anyway, replay of the start, and Yuma Iwasa was able to lead the way fairly easily from the start. Left, I think it's Dennis Hauger and Victor Martins scrapping it out side by side for second position. And looks like Hauger is going to make that work, actually. So I think Hauger was fourth on the grid, so a very good start by Dennis Hauger, as they've been able to jump Victor Martins in the end there as well. So up 2 for the Norwegian driver. He's on board with our teammate Kushmini off the start. And Roman Stanek in front moves to the inside, comes back across slightly, and a bit of contact between Miney and Stanek. And that's done some minor front wing damage to the Miney car. And yeah, that's just a real shame. Side by side now with MRA Cordial as they continue to race on. Here's the onboard from Zaim Naloni behind, and that was probably the best angle I could find of the incident. As yeah, Stanek was I think just following the car in front back towards the racing line, and just didn't quite realise what was that he was moving across in front of Kushmini at a very important point there. That was one Manuel Correa with a bit of a lock-up, and that's helped us tag along to the back of this queue. We'll make the move to the inside in a very unorthodox place there, and we get a nice move done on Isaac Hadjar there. But yeah, this whole queue of cars is very tightly packed at the moment. Fastest laps are flying everywhere as we run it out into the barriers there, but no harm done. It's just a scratch. But anyway, we're under a little bit of pressure as we head towards turn 1, but we should be able to brake late enough as there's a bit of a lock-up in front, so they're all scrapping quite hard up ahead as well. But as we continue to carry on, hopefully we'll be able to get involved in the action here. And look at the run we've got on Oliver Behrman here. We look to the outside as we head towards the next right-hander, now to the inside. Behrman defends a bit awkwardly, down the inside we go, and contact, and that's a spin. And we're going to try and make this a full 360. He's sort of awkwardly stopped halfway through the spin there. That's cost us a lot of time. And
no threat of rain for the time being. Conditions look good.
That's not quite what I wanted to ask. I was trying to select the vehicle status. But anyway, that's a Mary Cordial with a big engine failure there. Goodness me, there's a lot of smoke coming out the back of that car. And Mary Cordial is going to retire from this one. But yeah, that spin's put us a long way behind the field. That's what I was worried about doing at the end of the sprint race, while I was more cautious then. But yeah, in that instance, I know we need to get through the field. I was aggressive. Behrman actually defended quite late there and made things quite awkward. Here it is again on the replay, watching this at half speed. And I mean, yeah, we went for the move, committed down the inside. Behrman was a little bit further to the right. He did move very slightly, but in the end, I'd say that was a fairly minor contributing factor. Ultimately, we went too deep into the corner and, yeah, made contact with Bashaw. So, yeah, the little slight move from Behrman was a bit of a distraction, but I don't think it was...
Okay, good work. Great pass.
Anything too untoward as we have cleared Crawford, and we're starting to make the comeback in this race once again down the inside of Nasani in much the same way we made that move on Hadjar earlier on. So yeah, we can basically pass cars wherever we want at the moment, because this is the point in the race where the soft tyres are reaching the end of their lifespan, the mediums still good.
Okay, 18th. You're in 18th place.
And we've definitely passed that crossover point where the mediums are now faster than the softs, and we can absolutely fly through the field as we make the move on Isaac Hadjar as well. And as we continue on, next up is Ollie Behrman, a championship rival coming into this weekend, but Behrman hasn't made too much progress in this race as we make the move through the chicane side by side through there. Thank you very much. And we'll make the move now down the inside of Fittipaldi as well. We're not quite going to get that one done though. We'll slot back in behind. And as we carry on, Fittipaldi making the move now on Kushmaini. So our teammate really struggling. We're going to go for it on Kushmaini. And thankfully our teammate doesn't make it too hard for us. I don't think he can make it hard for us, because that front wing damage is really costing Kushmaini some time. Here's the replay, getting overtaken by 2 cars into the chicane. That would have been a bit of a stressful moment for our teammate. But we had to be aggressive there and get through and stay on terms with Fittipaldi. Because you know, we need to be making these moves and getting through the field. But out in front, Ayumu Iwasa still leads the way ahead of Dennis Hauger, Victor Martins. A bit of a queue of cars at the front of the field though, too, as Dennis Hauger goes for the move around the outside of Ayumu Iwasa, and the 2 Red Bull liveried cars run side by side, and Dennis Hauger gets through ahead of Iwasa, and Dennis Hauger takes the lead here as Victor Martins might be trying to get involved in this battle as well. Frederick Vesti in the background there too, so there's still plenty to play out in the fight for the podium and championship contenders amongst that as well. We go for the move around the outside of Fittipaldi into the chicane, and we get that move done once again.
Nice work, mate. That brings you up a place.
So we have a ton of pace in the car at the moment. Next up in front of us is Correa, as into the pits comes Iwasa. So the Dams team trying to get the undercut on Hauger, who just took the lead away, of course, from Iwasa. Frederick Vesti in pits as well from that fight at the front of the field. So we'll see how this plays out. Hopefully it'll be a nice clean stop for Ayumu Iwasa. Now taking a while, but Iwasa does get going again. We'll see how they fare on the exit. And I think Vesti's gained some time there, so I don't imagine Iwasa would have been held up, but maybe just a slower pit stop from the Dams team. And Frederick Vesti might just be a touch closer on pit exit. But either way, Iwasa is the leader of those who have stopped so far. But into the pits now comes Dennis Hauger with Victor Martins in tow. And a lock up there for Hauger into pit lane, so pushing limits at every possible zone of the circuit, but they both come into the box in unison there. Wheels come off, wheels go on for Dennis Hauger. He's being held though, and is that for Victor Martins? I think it is, and it looks like the Frenchman has managed to jump the Norwegian in pit lane, so Victor Martins takes the lead of these two. But where is Iwasa? Has Iwasa managed to affect that undercut? It doesn't seem to be the case. There he is in the background, slotting in 3rd position for Iwasa. So it's actually been a fantastic pit stop phase for Victor Martins, who now takes the effective race lead of those who have stopped so far. It goes Martins ahead of Dennis Hauger. Iwasa's lost out massively there. So yeah, that kind of proves the point that I was making earlier on about trying to get those medium tyres up to temperature. The undercut just is not effective because the tyres start out so cold and you need to warm them up. You don't get that undercut benefit from just 1 lap. So that has really shaken up the top 3. But for us, we actually just catch up to Roman Stanek before it's time for us to come into the pits. So that was perfect timing for us, and that's not quite perfect on the pit entry. But anyway, we carry on, heading into the pit lane. We'll get it stopped nicely at the line, and hopefully the crew can give us a good stop. Optimal turn in and this hopefully will all go to plan. Should be a nice,
Okay, mate,
efficient
that's it.
stop.
Go, go, go. Perfect job on the turn in there, mate. Looks like a nice stop time. We're happy with that one.
Yep, 4.2 seconds by the crew.
Look after
So
these tyres now. We want to finish the race on this compound.
with the soft tyres on the car now, that should give us plenty of grip, and we should be one of, if not the fastest car on track for the rest of the race.
Fittipaldi just ahead. Come on, go get him.
And yeah, we have been undercut by Fittipaldi by a couple of laps. That's why I was able to get back in front of us, but we'll make that move on Fittipaldi with relative ease, and we might as well pass Zane Maloney while we're at it down the inside. Little bit deep, but we've got so much grip.
No tyre concerns at the moment. Just focus on the driving.
And yeah, at this stage of the race, we are absolutely flying. But because of what was going on with Kushmaini, as we see Stanek under fire from Victor Martin. So Stanek, who hasn't stopped yet, is now being caught by the race leaders. So that's Victor Martins taking back the actual race lead on track now, and Roman Stanek drops into second position ahead of Dennis Hauger. But yeah, this actually could make things interesting for those fighting at the front, because if Hauger and Iwasa can't clear Stanek quickly, they could actually lose quite a bit of time here, because you know, Stanek, he's not being blue flagged. This is a 4 position, so he has no obligation to get out of the way, and he's still fighting for his own race and his own results. So the Czech driver could actually have a pretty big impact on the way this fight for the top few positions plays out, until he eventually comes in for a pit stop at some point in this race. But I can only imagine that the Trident team are hoping for a safety car at this stage to try and salvage something for Roman Stanek. He's doing his best, but a lock up there is certainly not going to help things. And Stanek is under huge pressure from Dennis Hauger, so the Norwegian driver really needs to get through as soon as possible. Look at the margin Victor Martins has pulled already to Roman Stanek and the rest of the field. So is there opportunity for Hauger here? Round the outside into the chicane goes Dennis Hauger and gets through. Stanek slots into third position. Iwasa behind now as they continue to race on into the final sector. Is Iwasa close enough to make the move? Not quite, and Stanek is losing time all the way through, costing the entire queue behind. So it's really an awkward situation for all involved. I'm sure Iwasa really wants to get this move done, but there's just no way through at this zone of the circuit, and Stanek pulls off into the pits, which will be a relief for everyone behind. But they'll be perhaps wishing that he did that a lap or two earlier. But Stanek comes into the pits and will drop well down the order in this race, unfortunately. Will not be competing for points. Just, yeah, with no real good tyres to work with in this one for the last phase of this race. Back on board with ourselves, and we've got Juan Manuel Correa in our sight. We're going to make the move around the outside into the final sector. But like I was saying, because of what was going on with Kushmaini at the early phases of this race, it's really spread out the field in the mid-pack, so overtakes might be few and far between. There are some big gaps between cars. But Stanek, with those worn soft tyres on the car now, continues to struggle, unfortunately. And I think that's Jack Crawford making the move around the outside. So yeah, it's really been a day to forget for Stanek, even after pitting onto the softs. Because I assume it would be the qualifying tyres for Stanek, so they would have done a number of laps already. And yeah, it's proving quite costly for the Trident driver. Just no pace, and a frustrating day for Roman Stanek. Meanwhile, we make the move down the inside of Benavides, and that moves us up into the top 10. So we're into the points finally in this race. It's taken us quite a while to get here, but we have navigated our way into the top 10. And next up is Teo Porcher. So again, a potential championship rival in front of us. So if we can get past Porcher, that would be very, very helpful for our title hopes. But again, we're still so early in the season. As we make our way through, we got a good run, great traction even through the corners that aren't hugely traction dependent, we can find some advantage. And we're closing in. DRS open now, of course, as well. We're going to make the move down the inside into the chicane with the overspeed there. So a nice easy move on Teo Pourchaire, and that moves us up another position.
You're in ninth position. That's Leclerc just ahead. Push hard.
And the sprint race winner in front of us now. So we close in to the queue ahead after Leclerc tail-ending that. As we get a bit of a wobble on, we'll have to watch out for Pourchaire. He's not that close. Oh, Pourchaire! Smoke out of the back of the engine. And Teo Pourchaire has an issue as we're looking back in that moment. We just happened to catch a glimpse of it. So Teo Pourchaire with an issue in this race and might not make it to the checkered flag at all. What a disaster for Teo Pourchaire. And the Frenchman pulls off to the side of the road and parks it up at the exit of turn 2. So Teo Pourchaire out of the race with a mechanical failure. That puts Brad Benavides into the points. Anyway, we continue on, and we're on the back of Clement Novalak as we continue to race our way towards the end of this one. We'll make the move down the inside of Novalak into the penultimate corner. That was robust, but with the grip we have, like I said, we can make overtakes pretty much anywhere we want, and we can get away with it even in the non-traditional locations.
Final lap. Push. Okay, so we're leading our teammate by 39.2 seconds.
The desperation is building now as we are on the final lap of the race. So, at this stage, our tyres have seen their best. So we're trying to use what's left of them, but we still have some decent grip beneath us. And we've got Jack Doohan in front. So let's see if we can spoil the party for the home favourite. But at the moment, we're not quite close enough. A good run here, though. But I don't think we've got a long enough straight to do anything, and certainly not much of a braking zone there to get through from that far back. So Jack Doohan holds on for a little bit longer as we're starting to contemplate where we're going to make this move. It's going to have to be into the final sector. We're not going to have the run through the chicane from this far back, so we're just going to have to hold our line through here and try and set something up into... Oh, we've run wide! And that's going to spoil the chance we had. We did have a nice run going there through the chicane, but out into the gravel there, and now we've got no chance of a move into this final sector, and we're actually quite slow on the rotation there, so Doohan might just get away with this one. We get a nice run through the right-hander. Can we think about a move? We're not close enough, and Jack Doohan's going to hold on. Meanwhile, out in front, the other Alpine liveried car, Victor Martins, is going to take victory here in Melbourne in the feature race. Well done, Victor Martins, holding off Hauger all the way to the end. We're going to complete this fairly solid recovery drive, though, again.
Okay, pick up rubber and bring it home.
This time it's to 7th position and a fistful of points that might just be valuable at the end of the season. Once again, driver of the day at the end of that one. I think we get the fastest lap, too.
Victor by name, Victor by nature. He's taken the win. Victor Martins.
Such a great experience for these young drivers to manage these conditions before heading on to Formula One. And it's brilliant stuff to take the victory.
ART, the French team who have been racing since the 90s in various forms of motorsport, are once again back on the winner's podium today after a brilliant display of driving skill.
Well, it was a great pit stop by the ART team to get Victor Martins into the race lead and never really looked back from there. Second place for Dennis Hauger. After leading for a brief moment, it's a good haul of points for the Norwegian driver. Awasa might be a little disappointed with third.
Well, what a weekend that has been. Please join us next time for another thrilling instalment when Formula 2 returns.
Alrighty then, let's have a little run through the finishing order as always and see who finished where, especially in terms of our championship rivals. So it was Victor Martins who took the race victory, and that's going to do wonders for his championship. Dennis Hauger second, Ayumu Iwasa third, first of our main championship rivals we outlined at the start of the weekend. but of course we'll reevaluate that shortly. Frederick Vesti in 4th position, so good points for he and Ruvula in P5. 6th for Jack Doohan ahead of myself. Clement Novalak be pretty disappointed, I think, with the way this race played out. Started 3rd, finishing down in P8. Arthur Leclerc P9 and Brad Benavides getting another point on the board with P10. Juan Manuel Correa just missing out. Also worth mentioning Ollie Behrman started 21st, moved up to 14th by the end of the race. So a solid drive through the field, but unfortunately no points at the end of the day for Oliver Behrman. Right, let's take a little look at the championship standings then. We still lead the way. We're on 69 points, 25 points ahead of Victor Martins, who has 44. And then 39 points for both Dennis Hauger and Ayumu Iwasa. So tied on points for 3rd position. Dennis Vesti on 36 points and 35 points for the MP Motorsports driver of Jane Deruvula, rounding out the top 6 in the championship, and the main contenders, I suppose, at this stage. But of course, plenty left to play out. Oliver Behrman incidentally has dropped to 8th in the standings after that round. A pointless round. Behrman remains on 27 points and has dropped, along with all those ones I've just mentioned, also dropping behind Arthur Leclerc, who has 30 points. Our teammate Kushmaini, not a good weekend for Kushmaini, and yeah, our teammates dropped to 13th in the standings on 12 points. So not ideal there. In terms of the team's championship, though, we're still looking to be in an okay position, I think. We're still in the lead there, albeit by just 7 points over MP Motorsport. ART next, just 10 points behind, 12 points behind for the Dams team, 18 points behind for the Prema team, who have really started to make some ground recently after scoring no points in the first round. There's only one pointless team now, that being Carlin. So they still are yet to get anything on the board. But anyway, that is going to do it for this one. So I will say thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I really do appreciate it. Please feel free to give me some feedback in the comments. It is always very helpful. And yeah, other than that, I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.